Thanks, Denise. So is the sound good back there? Give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I'm really impressed that this many people can show up on a weeknight to talk about science-y stuff. I'm sure you are familiar with rock, paper, scissors, and that was the big draw, right? Rock, paper, scissors? Okay. Well, we're going to use that, actually. It's a deceptively simple thing, and you'll see how it feeds into a lot of game design. But first, I'm going to give you a little bit about my background. That's me, of course, with different hair. It changed color when I switched my allegiance to Targaryen. So I have credits in hundreds of games played by worldwide audiences in the millions. If those of you in the audience have played Big Fish games, that's where a lot of that comes from. I see some nods. So I ran the narrative design team at Big Fish and worked on all of the storylines, and we put out about 100 games a year, and I was there for 5 years, so that's where all that comes from. I've been in the game industry for more than a decade, but before that, I had 15 years as a journalist and published author. So I came in with some storytelling skills already. I actually am from St. Louis originally and just moved back last year after 20 years away in the video game industry in Seattle. So when I was in St. Louis, I worked at the St. Louis Science Center, and I wrote the text for the gallery Cyberville. How many people remember Cyberville? Yeah, so early geek stuff that fed nicely into video games. I've been nominated for an International Mobile Gaming Award, and my games are featured in the App Store and on Google Play and consistently in the top 10. So it's good. It's a good industry for me. I'm going to show you a couple of games that I have worked on. So this is one that is an interactive novel. So it's kind of like a comic book that you would play on your phone. So what makes it more of a game is that you get to choose. So you get to choose, in some cases, who lives and dies. You choose who you go on dates with. And this is not for kids, really. So there's some steamy scenes on some of those dates. But I'm going to just show you a bit of this. And while it's playing, I want you to think about all the different types of disciplines that feed into video games. Do you know what I mean by discipline? So like artist, that's a discipline. I'm a writer, that's my discipline. So that's where I come from. But you think about video games, there's a lot going on there. Huge teams of people, even to make smallish looking games. And you don't have to read what's on screen, but just get the general gist. Okay, so what goes into a game like that? Yeah.
Detectives.
Detectives, okay. So those are the fictional characters. Who creates a detective? Because you saw them.
Yeah. The person that made the game.
Yeah, so there's art, right?
Programmer.
Programmer, okay. So the detective was created by two people, let's say, actually teams, but you have a writer who comes up with a storyline that says, I want a character that's a detective in there. Second would be the artist comes in, okay, what does that detective look like? So I'm not an artist, I make stick figures. So what I do is I create the story and then I have like inspiration art samples about what I want that detective to look like. And then you're absolutely right. He said programming. Yeah, the architecture. Is that something you know about? Are you a programmer or?
No.
Oh, okay. Just a smart guy who knows how video games are made. What's that?
The law firm on the water bottle.
Oh, that was just accidental. I got that for free.
That's good.
Thanks, Lewis
That's all you
Rice.
get from them for free.
Excellent.
Do you
So-
do a description of the characters and then the artists pick it up? It's like a written
Yes,
narrative?
yes, exactly. So we got artists, we got writers, especially on a title like this where there's, there's a lot of words in this game. Who else? Programmers, yeah.
Musician?
Exactly, I was waiting for that because that was great music, wasn't it? Yeah, so there's some musicians working on games, yeah.
Illustrator.
Illustrator, right. So we had not just the characters, but we had the background, yeah.
Does somebody provide the voice for the character?
Yes, not in this game, but voiceovers, that's huge. So we actually have actors in games. Yeah, what else?
Marketer.
Marketers, yeah, okay, thinking like a business person. Yeah,
Someone to design the layout.
yes,
Speech bubbles.
yes, definitely. So I like this. That is someone whose specific title is UI designer. So does anyone know what UI stands for? Great, I love this crowd. Okay, very science savvy people here. User interface designer. So, and you saw that there are, this is probably getting too much into this, but it's cool to talk about, so let's go back. You saw that there are these little animations going around the character's head. You see that little shoo flash. And then in this window, there's a movement of a little light. So low budget, right? There's no animation in here, but we can create these little experiences that suggest a movement, which we can't do in 2D comic books. All right, so I'm getting kind of off track, but that's because you guys have fun stuff to say. Here's another one. Some of you may have played this because it's being played by many, many people.
Inspiring my first best-selling novel, I have always thought of you as family and would like you to have my mansion. With a little love, it can become the home of your dreams.
I always think it's really awkward when these companies like LP Mobile put their company name in there, like, "Hi, LP Mobile." Okay, I'll stop there. So this starts to introduce you to the core loop of the game, which is you play the puzzle, which in this case is a match 3. Then you earn stars. Then you go out to your mansion and you use those stars, which are the currency, to build in the game. And so that loop continues. So I want you to remember this loop of 3 things, because core loop is something that's very integral to game design, especially the types of games I work on. So going back to our conversation about discipline, if we narrow it, since this is a science talk, if we narrow it down to science and tech, what are the people who are in science and tech who work on games? Any ideas? Yeah.
Programmers.
Okay, so definitely programmers, and they're coding the game. There are several different types. So some people who might code the actual scripting in the game, and some who even may build the engine that the game is used to make. Okay, that's the levels of programming. So they have a lot of different types of programmers within there. What else? Yeah.
Computer engineers.
Okay, great. So engineers, some games are so big, especially one like this, you might have a whole infrastructure like Candy Crush has been around for 10 years. So they have like engineers who are working on keeping that game running and all of the purchasing in the game that people do and all the feedback to the player throughout that. So there's a lot of engineering work that goes on. And I would say even the music has a technical aspect. So there are straight up composers, but then there are people who actually program music into games, and that can get fairly technical too. You almost can't work on games without having some bit of technical ability. Even as the writer, I have to write that first one you saw, the interactive novel, I had to write a lot of code around it to tell the true programmer, since I'm not of that level, but I had to communicate to him in code when the characters were happy, sad, worried, what music to play in the background, when we're changing costumes because the characters change clothes, when we're changing scenes in the game. So everybody's got some kind of like awareness, aptitude, brush up against, even the marketers to an extent. I'm not standing on that, am I? Oh. With tech in games. Okay. So that should not scare you, that should encourage you. Let's go one slide over. All right, so here's your interactive component. I would like you to turn to the person to your right and just for a few minutes play rock, paper, scissors with that person. You know how to play it. If you don't, wave me over. I will show you. Oh, she needs a partner. Okay. It works better with two anyway.
Eventually you fall, but it's always paper trick.
What? Okay. I just imagine in your head. Here, I'll play with you. Ready?
See if I can win.
Ah, you won already.
1-1.
Okay, let me bring you back to the room. So I'm noticing two things, right? Two things. I forgot what the second one was. The first one is that, hey, did you feel that energy? Everybody's playing games. You guys are playing games with strangers. Just like straight up rock, paper, scissors. There was an energy and everyone's talking. That's the beautiful thing about games. And there's a science and a psychology behind why that works, which is a subject for another talk. But the second thing I'm noticing is that people have different styles of play. Did you start to develop a strategy? Anybody? Yeah? Strategy? Oh, did anyone stick with one?
That was an article. Wall Street Journal like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, did you stick with one?
I got getting pretty good at predicting what my partner would pick.
Great. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. So that game actually lends itself most to that kind of intimacy in play, which is the starting to know who the partner is and how they play. And it becomes less a strategy of, oh, because they're all equal, right? But predicting what the other person might gravitate toward. If you notice that your son is a kind of a rock guy, then maybe you go for the paper. All right. There are 2 takeaways I want you to have with rock, paper, scissors. And one is that it is a type of game. What do we play it with? What? Hands? Yeah, he's like hands. Yeah, we always use our hand. No one had to go hook up the Xbox or see if it's even working or get the right connections going or go find a console or go get a bat and a glove. No equipment necessary. You got it right here, okay? So we call that a hand game. That's actually a type of game. Can you think of other hand games that you've played? Let's hear from guy in the hat back there. Chopsticks, great. Yes, chopsticks. Other people play chopsticks? Yeah, okay, what's yours? Cowboy? I don't know that one. Oh, right. Yeah, okay, cowboy, that's awesome. What? Thumb wrestling. Yes. Yes, back there. What's that? Mercy? Oh, mercy, yeah. Uh-huh.
Nose goes.
Nose goes? Oh, nice. Yeah, patty cake is another one. And then we can extend it to if there's like some one object involved, like a knife game or something like that, but we would not want to play that here. All right, so we cover that. What are some other hand games? So I want you to remember that. So some games are very simple. We could play them just with our hands. And hand games are actually a good way to learn games and design. So when you're playing rock, paper, scissors, and you just think about it for a minute, you're already starting to participate in game design. Okay? Really, I'm serious. All right, so here's another one. Does anyone know, this is a Japanese game that is very similar to rock, paper, scissors. Does anyone know what it's called? Because I had just discovered it, so I was curious to know if other people knew about it. Mushi-Ken. Did you know about that?
I knew it involved snakes and toads were 2 of the things. I don't know what the third one is.
Ah. I don't either. That's a question for another day.
I think it's a crane.
A crane?
I think so.
It looks crane-like. Yeah, there's a, should I tell this? All right, I will. So Mushi-Ken was considered for a long time a way to seduce. So a game that was played prior to seduction, as part of the seduction. So you never know. Hand games, different uses. Yeah, so the second thing I want to do is point out that this rock, paper, scissors is a zero-sum game. Zero-sum game. So here's the Webster's Dictionary definition: a situation in which one person or group can win something only by causing another person or group to lose it. So that happened, right? No 2 winners in rock, paper, scissors. In order for you to win, I have to lose. In order for you to lose, I'm winning.
But you can't tie.
Then no one wins. Yeah. So zero-sum game. So hand game, zero-sum game. Think about those as we move on. So here's the core loop of rock, paper, scissors. Okay, so in that game, Matchington Mansion, it's you need to beat the puzzles to get the stars to build the things in the mansion. Here it's scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, rock beats scissors. So basic game design, this is the kind of thing that you would start to think about and sketch out on paper if you wanted to design a new game. Okay. All right, so little experiment here. What if you change the elements?
So, form an our best man idea. Apparently you're wearing a giant trench coat and standing on my shoulders isn't classy.
My glasses, you told me I've been wearing a plastic flower that brings water.
So, let's just do rock, paper, scissors, see who the best man is, right?
No. I hate that game. I always lose.
Because you always pick rock.
But because nothing beats rock.
Paper beats rock. Those are the rules.
Not buying it.
Fine. Play a new game. How about cockroach, foot, nuclear bomb? Foot squashes cockroach. Nuclear bomb blows up foot. And cockroach survives nuclear bomb.
That's great. I'll be nuclear bomb. Nothing beats nuclear bomb.
I just told you, cockroach beats nuclear bomb.
Oh, we'll see about that.
All right. So why is that funny? Yeah.
Because he missed the point
Yeah, what is the point?
that there's checks and balances.
Right, we could go back to that slide. Oop, not forward. That's for later. So yeah, he missed this. He missed the core loop in thinking that, one beats the other. All right, so let's talk about this. First, this is actually wrong, isn't it? Yeah, so how should it be? Go ahead and tell me. Yeah, okay. So there's that check. But I want to dive into this a little bit because, as you know, my discipline is storytelling. And a lot of people think as a writer that I'm the one who would put a lot of words in the game. And actually, I have even been on some projects where I'm trying to streamline and cut the amount of text in games because I want to tell the story much more visually, because this is a visual medium. I want to tell it through gameplay and visuals. So what struck me most about that 70s show clip, besides the funny factor that he's missing the point, is that these tell a story. And that's why they work so well. What is the story? Why these? What's the story? What does, what are these two? What are they, why? Yeah.
Cold War narrative.
Cold War narrative. Yes, said the lawyer. Yes. Cold War
Said the old
narrative.
person.
What?
Said the old person from the Cold War.
Well, yeah, I grew up with it. So, and what is the cockroach for the kids who might not know?
They can survive the radiation.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but the story is, you guys know that? The cockroaches, supposedly, will be the only thing that survives a nuclear war.
And Twinkies.
And Twinkies, yes. Exactly. Many a game has had both those elements in it, the post-apocalyptic games. Right, which is why you don't want to eat a Twinkie. All right, so we got that. And then foot, of course, squishes cockroach, which is very, you can hear that. You can feel that. There's a story there just in these static pictures. They're not even moving. No sound effects, nothing. And then the really poignant part, right, is that.
Humanity versus.
Yeah. Humanity. Annihilating itself. Not the most cheery topic for a Thursday evening, but it illustrates it, right? We need that. We need that little bit of sadness for story to work. It's a weird thing that I have to keep reminding all my clients. Because like we get a game like Mushi-Ken Mansion, and they're so afraid of people not wanting to play it that they don't want to put anything sad in it. And then, you know what? Heaven is a place where nothing ever happens, said a guy in a song once.
It's no longer competitive.
Yeah, it's boring. It's boring. You need the sadness in order to feel the happy. So you got to have the cockroach and the nuclear bomb. This is a lot more story than rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors, very abstract. We get it. It's easy. We get in there. Our minds understand it. But this is story. Okay. I know. So now you have to redesign rock, paper, scissors. And you can't use cockroach, foot, bomb. So you can work on your own if you prefer. This is what the paper and pencil are for. Or you can go to the person you played that with and together do it. Or in little groups. If you came as a family, you could do it as a family. So I like to hear from a lot of different people because I'm an introvert, and I often have to like push myself to contribute. That's kind of what I've decided to do as an introvert, is in groups push myself to contribute in meaningful ways. And because I find when I'm teaching that some of the best stuff comes from some of the quietest people. So I don't know why that is, and it's not to take away from the extroverted people, because I love them. I'll gravitate toward extroverted people like a moth to a flame. So anyway, that was a long way of explaining why, if you have already said something tonight, during this talk, I don't want you to share yours yet. Okay, so only people who have not said something while I've been up here and trying to do it back and forth, okay? But I want you to share your really good ideas, those of you who have not said anything yet. And I heard one that I'm going to call on because I loved both of the ideas very much and kind of want to talk about one. But yes, yeah, we've heard from your brother a lot. So what have you got?
Fire, water, and snow.
Fire, water, and snow. That's very similar to hers. I love it. She's wearing a NASA t-shirt, by the way to represent on the science. All right, so yours was like that.
Fire, earth, and water.
Fire, earth, and water. Okay, so I love both these ideas, and they are used quite a bit in games. So you were right on in your game design. You gravitated toward things, the systems of the elements, right, that work really well and have worked in games like Magic the Gathering, for example. Okay, so I would probably tweak hers a bit. I like water, snow. If you added another water type thing, you see how that would
Steam.
kind of, yeah, you could. Although you said water, fire, and snow, maybe that's fine because the fire creates steam, right? So you just want to work on what would your story be. And then yours is pretty classic. So she gave me this super classic thing, and then she followed it with a question that made me almost just laugh. Have you seen Back to the Future? And I was like, I'm confused because you weren't even born when that came out. And I live down the street from a guy who had a DeLorean, literally. So anyway, and it was brilliant, so please share it.
So we have Doc that beats the DeLorean because he can drive the car. DeLorean that beats time because he goes through time. And then time beats Doc because he still gets older.
Brilliant. And she managed to sum up the central theme of Back to the Future in that. Nice. So some stories, like the basic elements, yours and that, you could apply a lot of different stories to Back to the Future. You took a story and built a game from it. We go back and forth like that all the time. That's why we have like the E.T., the board game, right? The board game wasn't first, of course, and that's why I have Marvel everything. Okay, now those of you who were talkative earlier can now also share. I'd like to hear a couple more. Yeah.
Mom Dingo Baby.
Mom Dingo Baby. That Seinfeld reference?
Well, the original.
The original, yes. Great, okay. Awesome, I love it. I love the humor coming out of these two. Others, yeah, let's hear yours.
Ours is from Clash Royale.
From Clash Royale?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're kind of riffing on a game?
It's called Prince Wizard Minion Horde.
Okay, Prince Wizard Minion Horde. And did you three work on this together?
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nice go team. I like that. Hardly any game design happens by yourself. Yeah.
Okay, I have Alien Meteor Dinosaur.
Alien Meteor Dinosaur. That lends itself really well to kind of a cataclysmic story. I like it. And it's more positive than nuclear bomb, you know? Unless you're a dinosaur. Yeah. Kind of sad for them. And you had your hand up?
Yeah. Car traffic light power outage.
Ooh. Car traffic light power outage. You nicely there take kind of the mundane of life and elevate it to story and gameplay dynamics. So nicely done. I like that. Okay, one more.
We have cave, sun, and water.
Cave, sun, and
flood water.
And flood water.
Yeah.
I like it. There's already a story in there. Are you thinking of something?
Well, I was thinking of the boy that was stuck in the
Ooh, nice. We had two current events come up, or not really current, but two news events as rock, paper, scissors. So, all right, I just want you to know one thing. You are all now game designers, so congratulations. Okay. So I'm going to throw a curveball at you.
How about we go rock, paper, scissors? Ew, I don't think so. I suggest rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. Scissors cut paper. Paper covers rock. Rock crushes lizard. Lizard poisons Spock. Spock smashes scissors. Scissors decapitates lizard. Lizard eats paper. Paper disproves Spock. Spock makes rock destroy. And as it always has, rock crushes scissors. Okay, got it. Rock, paper, scissors, scissors, Spock. I'm not going to watch the Clone Wars TV series until I've seen the Clone Wars movie. Or let George Lucas disappoint me in the work he intended. But I want to watch it now. Then I believe we've arrived at another quintessential rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock moment.
Watch whatever you want. With the extra dumplings.
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. Rock, paper, scissors, lizard,
All right. Sorry, I was supposed to stop it before the Big Bang Theory thing. All right, so you add complexity. Things get interesting, right? So we're adding just two. Two doesn't sound like a lot, but because these are relational, you suddenly got permutations there. So science happening there with your hand game. Doesn't want to go. All right, so there's what that looks like. Look, I gave you a chart. So much easier that way. So what does lizard do? Okay, yeah, it poisons Spock, it eats paper. Rock does what it always does, but also to Lizard, what does it do? Smashes it, okay. And then we have Scissors, what is it? Oh, what does it do? I think he used, yes, she used the right word, decapitates. Ugh. And then, of course, cuts paper. And then Spock, what does he do to the rock? Do you remember what he? Yeah, vaporizes. Good memory. So vaporizes the rock and crushes the scissors. All right. Did we get them all? We have paper. What? Oh, this I love this one. What does paper do to Spock? Disproves, not disapproves. Disproves, which is a science-y thing. Disproves Spock on what? Like on his thesis for something, or that he exists, right? So it's funny. It's funny. What happened to the story? It got better? It got funnier. Yeah, there's a lot of humor in these editions. So we took the basic mechanic and then we add these two funny things. Two funny unrelated things. Lizard and Spock. Or are they related? Right? Okay, so quirky, nice thing to add to story. Quirky humor works. This is a little different though than nuclear bomb foot cockroach. Maybe not as poignant unless you're the lizard, right? Kind of tragic for the lizard. All right. So we did that already, sorry. Okay. So in looking at this, I want you to see it again. I can leave this up actually, because you know I'm so mean. What am I going to do? Ask you to add 2 to what you did before. Yeah. Okay. Okay, how many people said this was easy? Easy peasy. Did it in a flash. Okay, we got 1, 2. All right, even though you need more time, it's still easy. All right. How many people thought this was so hard? Okay, so you know why it was hard? Partly why it was hard is because, so for this one, we took rock, paper, scissors and we added 2. But you all went back to the one where you substituted something else for rock, paper, scissors, and then you added 2. So I just amped it up, like game design, like, you know, senior level. So you should feel really good if you accomplished it. Yeah. Okay. So I want to hear from those we've heard before this time. So last time you had dinosaur, meteor, what was the third one? Alien. What did you add?
I added a cowboy and a rattlesnake.
A cowboy and a rattlesnake. Interesting. So you chose to do this a little bit and break outside of what the original 3 were. And how does that work for you?
Well, the alien kills the cowboy. Cowboy shoots a snake. The snake can survive the meteor because we still have snakes today after the meteor.
Great.
The meteor still kills the dinosaur, and the dinosaur still eats the alien. And also, the alien can still beat the meteor. The meteor now crushes the cowboy. The cowboy can shoot a dinosaur. The dinosaur will eat the snake.
That is awesome. Give him a hand. Did we forget one?
The snake can bite the alien.
Oh, yes, I assumed that.
There we go.
That works, and it tells a story, and I love that it's this like layer of, and the rattlesnake and the cowboy go together, right? Yeah, so it's cool, it works. All right, you said it was easy, and last time you had fire, snow, and water, so what did you add?
Hammer and fire extinguisher.
Hammer and fire extinguisher. Again, she had original elementals and then added 2 that are tools. Okay, so you don't have to do the whole thing, but just generally, how do those 2 new ones fit in?
Well, the extinguisher beats the fire.
Okay,
And
right.
the hammer beats the extinguisher.
Okay,
And then the water stone breaks apart the hammer.
okay, yes, because rust
Yes.
destroys things. Nice. I like the logic at play in these. Okay, did you do anything with your Back to the Future?
I tried. So I added lightning and the clock tower.
Uh-huh.
So basically the DeLorean beat lightning because it used lightning to its advantage.
Okay.
But lightning can kill the dock.
Great.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
Then time beat lightning because time moves on when lightning doesn't.
Time beats everything.
Yeah. And lightning beat the clock tower because the clock tower broke.
Okay.
The clock beat time because it stopped the time on
Yeah.
the clock.
Yeah.
Clock tower beat the DeLorean because it's still concept of time. And the dock beat the clock.
Doc beat the clock. Nicely done. So you should all give yourselves a hand for that. Because I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed. I want to hire you all. All right. So we did that, and I did not time you. Okay, this video, I have to cue this up a little bit. This is actually the intention of this video is to show you how to play Street Fighter by being like, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so that's the intention of the video, but I'm going to use it in another way, building off this idea of rock, paper, scissors, bumped out with 2 more. And then what if, because you know in science, powers of 10, we can keep doing that. We can keep adding 2 more and 2 more and 2 more. Okay, so that's how you build video games. Let's see what they have to say here.
In a simple enough game, you can learn and use all the actions available to you very quickly. If there are few enough possibilities, you can use your entire moveset right from the beginning. This doesn't mean a game with a limited moveset is easy, but it means that you can remember and utilize all your tools at your disposal almost immediately. In fighting games, each character usually has a lot of moves compared with almost any other genre. Let's look at what a character has in Street Fighter V. Any given character will have 6 standing attacks, standing light, medium, and heavy punch, along with standing light, medium, and heavy kick. 6 crouching attacks, performed by pressing any of those same 6 attack buttons while holding down. At least 6 different jumping attacks, performed by pressing any of those same 6 attack buttons during a jump. Every character will also have a bunch of special moves. For each move, the properties will vary depending on whether you press the light, medium, or heavy punch or kick button. You'll have a few command normals, which are attacks done by pressing a direction and an attack button at the same time. So we're kind of running out of room on the screen, and we haven't even addressed universal movement options, throws, chain combos, different things you'd use the meters at the bottom of the screen for. So all told, any given character is going to have 40 or 50 different things they can be doing at any time, which is impossible. 40 or 50 things they can be doing at any given time. I want to put that back up here for a second. Yeah, so you see how that works, how that exponentially grows, the complexity. Could you imagine if I locked you in here for another 48 hours, which is something we call a game jam, by the way, where everybody gets locked in and they build a game. And I said, keep adding 2 until you get 40 or 50, and you have to make it all work. That system's got to work, right? The combos in this case have to work with the original kicks or fights or whatever you do. Any fighting game people in here? Okay, a couple. Yeah, I'm not really. But I find this really fascinating because the way that expands kind of makes me nervous and excited at the same time, which is the state of most game designers on any given day. Okay, so we're at that point where I give you takeaways. And I'm going to quiz you a little bit. So Rochambeau, by the way, is the other name of rock, paper, scissors you may be familiar with. So people say Rochambeau. What are the 2 things I said it was? Yeah. A hand game, yes. And what else?
I talked about core loop, you're absolutely right, but there was another thing. A type of game. Zero sum, yes. Zero sum, well done. Okay, and the zero sum, that's easy, right? You know what that is? Yeah, someone has to lose. sad part of games. Someone has to lose. Not all games. So rock, paper, scissors can be considered, there's your thing. Core mechanic, you just anticipated it, which is the basis for game design. And we saw it in the fighting game. They basically took rock, paper, scissors and blew it out. So you can tell a story through visuals and gameplay. Just think about that cockroach. There's no words there. And I feel like I'm putting writers out of business, but no, we become visual storytellers. You've seen that movie Up? Okay, the very beginning of it, I don't know, it's like 20 minutes long, the entire sequence, no words, entirely visuals. Okay. Not that words don't have a place. I write a lot of words in games. Game stories pack a lot of embedded meaning into the choice of elements or characters. One of the things that I do when I'm designing, just to bring words back in there, is I think about when I am using words, what is the relationship of the word to the visual? I don't want to take, like the image on his t-shirt is Ghostbusters, you know that symbol. I don't want to take that and then write no ghosts underneath it, because the visual already tells you no ghosts. So that's a simple way to think about it, but that comes into play a lot when you're writing and designing games. Adding elements adds complexity and choice exponentially. Okay, so think about that. Think about those games you play. All right, last thing. Game design in St. Louis. I just want to plug two fabulous organizations. I'm a member of the St. Louis Game Developer Co-op. It's a great org. They have meetups where game designers get together and share tips and tricks. They also do, they bring speakers in and they support each other in a lot of ways. There's a big, nice December Christmas party where you get a patch that says, I made a game, and it's always an exciting moment. It's like so cheap to join us. It's like $10 a year, totally worth it. And then Pixel Pop Festival is here in St. Louis. It's a conference that happens every year. It just had its 5th year. I spoke at it this weekend. That was a thing that I did Saturday and Sunday. It was at St. Louis University. They will have another one next year, probably at SLU again. So you're welcome to Google these and start looking into getting involved. Okay, so this is me. In my fantasy avatar version. This is my website. If you want to follow me on Twitter and Facebook and all those other things, you just go to that website and all the links are there. That's the easiest way to do it. You can email me too if you want to ask me specific things. I have a blog posting every Tuesday on game design topics. The presentation I gave on Sunday, I actually have broken out into a 2-part blog series as well, so you wouldn't have had to gone to Pixel Pop. You could go to my blog and read about it. So questions. Q&A is usually my favorite part of presenting, which is why I've started to do more interactive, because I like hearing from other people besides myself. Yes?
What do you do if somehow a game becomes too complex and there's too many choices and it's confusing and messy?
That's a great question, and it happens a lot. We call it feature creep sometimes when we're designing games. So in the development process, like we started off with this elegant thing of 3, and we're like, oh, what if we had this and this? And that's kind of a project management issue. And also budget. So you have to be really careful because it's fun activity to design games and people go into it because they love games, but it also has to pay the bills. And especially if you're kind of an indie developer, you need to scale back and really look at what can we realistically do. But it affects the design as well. You're right. Like, if you got a big mess, then it's not going to be fun for the player because you're like throwing way too many things at them. So I would say the best thing to do is to think about what is the player experience first and foremost. Yeah. Yeah.
If your ultimate goal is to be a writer for games, What educational pathway, what are things that you would need to have in that pathway? I mean, you mentioned you were a journalist.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I didn't know you could write for games until I was in my late 30s. I was like, whoa, Nintendo's here and they want to hire me to actually write for games? That's cool. Which, you know, now more people know that you can do that, especially females. So it was definitely kind of male-dominated early in my career. So I have a bachelor's in English from SLU, and then I went and got a master's of fine arts in creative writing. And that's held me really well, but I also have never felt myself too precious to not write things like, exhibit text, which is not a novel, or let's see, something like a financial report narrative. So, and I think all of those experiences of being paid to write anything have helped forge me into a really good writer. And the interactive part comes in really, like, online publishing prepared me really well, because I think of that as interactive. There's a comment section, there are links, there's multimedia in there. So I would say write anything, get paid to write whenever possible, and really read a lot. I know that sounds odd maybe because you're writing games, but I have trouble when I am looking to hire writers if they don't have a background as readers, because they're not as good at the writing. They may be good at the game design, but the writing really requires somebody who loves words and is a reader of something. It can be comic books, that's fine too, but they need to be a practiced reader who loves words. Yeah.
You also mentioned computer coding, so I was just wondering how much of that would you need in your background?
If you want to be eminently employable, it's awesome to do as much as possible. I don't, but the last 2 weeks I spent learning a brand new software program called Artisy Draft that I was teaching myself by YouTube tutorial by a guy speaking, English as a second language, so there was a heavy accent, and I'm rewinding it and doing it over and over, and there's some scripting in there, which is like baby steps toward coding. So at age 46, I am in there learning as much as I can all the time, because the industry is changing. You're not too good for anything. I'm going to look at trying to learn some Unity, which is another software program that's a lot harder. Scares me, but yeah, as much as possible. You wear a lot of hats in the game industry too, so the more you know how to do, like if you can make art and write, that's usually better. If you can code and write, you'll be a great game designer. You can maybe even make your own smaller kind of game on your own little creative path, and not compromise with other people. Yeah.
So if you were kind of copying a different game, like design or something, like a Candy Crush kind of style game, how would you copy their kind of game style?
Wait, sorry. What was the first part?
Like trying to make a similar type of game to like a game that already exists.
Yeah, like Candy Crush.
Yeah, like how do you copy kind of their code and like modify it?
Well, that's a loaded question. We have something in the industry called a non-disclosure agreement. So you're not allowed to do that. People will get sued. So what we do if we see something really cool in a game that we want to make our own version of is we play the game a lot, and then we go and we practice, we try to duplicate it. So, and that happens. That's why there's a ton of those match 3 games out there on the market. I'm working on 2 right now, and I worked on that Matchington Mansion game. And there's probably, what, 1 million match 3 games on the market. So once someone invents that mechanic, it does kind of proliferate around. So people share ideas. Coders get together and they'll share, and some things are open source enough where they may copy each other and or just share types of code. That's a good question, actually. Yeah. Anything else? You asked awesome questions, and thank you so much for your participation. I really enjoyed your contributions and your designs, and I look forward to running into some of you in the game design community here in St. Louis. Thank you very much.